What's going on, YouTube? Today we're going to be discussing the lore of the Necron people from the Warhammer 40k universe, told from the perspective of a Necron historian himself. If you want to see more great videos on lore told from the perspective of the characters in the universe, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and enjoy the video.
Beyond our apprehension, faster than any shield phalanx could parry, and unassailed lunge to the flesh, without carving cataracts to spill forth our red rivers, no splitting of heads and spines, its unnumbered javelins volley, from the ancient office to all unseen days, 1,000 golden saber dips to our throats, punctuating the count of our days with black marks. O terrible Lord, watching in the above sea, we tended our passing thicket gardens, for men heaped abodes in inhuman sepulchres without distinction. Then we moved our own accord through fleeting corridors to reside towards the far days in great halls, all willed the secession, but those who knew many things and spoke many words left them in rock for the ones who follow. The wise men taught the royal barges that strode a great river now to row themselves, and so they rode with ardent burning heaves like unto our people passing to the land of the dead. We are the ones who sail to and beyond death as the barges swam the black waters of the beginning. The mark of our provenance to the golden writ Lord embedded itself to stay beyond his reach. Our kind sought the permanence of life in inverse proportion to strangled echoes we mutter in the everlasting song of all the days. We were humiliated vassals of the world of exacted plazas and chiseled stone, our speech, thoughts, consequence of our being wrought into lapidary arts, our bond, our discipline towards duties, and acts of our existence shaped in the whole corpse of our world testify to we the Necrontyr. Resplendent soils and luxuries to be temptingly close yet denied, the Iaret, their pharaohs who slither in the realm of hk'wy and hold all the islands of the eightfold beginning waters to their kingdom, the serpents of the darkness who indenture all the beasts on every island as vassals. Our life offers a spark granted and capriced away by its grantor, while the miracle-working hk'wy of their number span them to the length of all days and hours, and privilege them the duties of plural existences. They have mastery over the realm of the car, and also take the reeds, floodplains, and summit of lands we can touch and visit. We writhe in terror as a long silence which befalls our whole people, and what mystic triumphs our aristocratic sins have made, or to diminish in clamors of investiture among cousins who menace to inscribe in a viridian epitaph to our people in prideful columns of corporeal conflagration. You wise lords knew it was the Iaret who should learn anew the lessons of the long silence, that it was name twice ruined to spend one fair life in contest within the editum of the private affair of the Necrontyr, than to perish for the Yakut, Marwati, that we may take and destroy all of what little Iaret could rapaciously hold. Who is the one who can deny the savoring of the chopped cobra in his world of fantasies, Who shall at this day not abate the indulgences of those skilled sailing scions of the manifold car? For you see the tombs and triarchs are dearly adorned. Who would refuse a prodigious supply of iridescent color? The tools our wise ones made directed the atavistic humming and crackling strengths we have mastered to recompense herself. Verily have many Iaret who once pretended in mocking to be the Necrons of all being now are mocked themselves as being as the minds made into rent flesh. In the nave requilcary of the Iaret, he holds a realm of the car which is denied to us, and which he can traverse to confound and encircle us. In defeat we deign to return to the dreadful radiant despot who weighed oppressively on our old home. Once more we suffer in the war among our clans, cursing the other beings of the entirety and our own weakness. The Iaret we're at the mercy of, and many shorn of dignity by war even sought peace with the slithering warlocks of the void archipelagos. No solace in shadow and in dusk, lit recesses of the wisest who stood but before the candor of body which assailed us. This was a staying place of beings not alike the Iaret, us too. Not clad of felt flesh, pruned charcoal as we would be, nor inebriated on the mind fancies and make-believe substance of the serpents. They were force, they were the being of light power, and they engorged the javelins we suffered. They was strength not yet wielded, metal to be exemplified, and we could not but recognize them, the children of the light-tasting maker, and so we knew them as Satan. These were the rallying lords sent from above to bring forth our horizon. So great Hundi of the crawling shimmerstone hides now rolls to live in bridges of light, herald the corporeal being of the princes of the Liege of Silence. So we were the unknowing, and in haste to deliver ourselves from the humus and our humility throughout the black reaches, we entertained the stories of one Satan. He was permitted to speak by us of a war that is kind too lost with the Iaret. Our Pharaon Sarek only found admonition in Orekan, who prophesied martial success at the cost of our very essence. We lacked adept mastery of the unreal in which the Iaret delighted, but we could not know to a surety that we lacked being beyond flesh. I recall the triarchs Kwamwi, who caused wrryt-msh to advance in a Tamaturge island they called Kaulu Welia Shaipu. The Lord saw freely given glory in a swift victory against the foolishly unarmed bucolic dwelling of Iaret, so the advanced scouts bore. As the moribund triarch advanced, the unarmed were sending their ideas and knowings of the Necrontyr presence to the assembled Saromatai host of the Ka realm. Without precedent, millions of Iaret burst from the soil and pierce the skies, their pensive hearts churning the waste into a sea of collapsing silt, and focusing the Golden Lord's power to instantly deal death. Our memories were as short as our lives on the eve of that choice casting. In short order, we possessed at least parity with the agility of the Iaret. Our instruments of death were without peerage to anything the Iaret could muster, yet now all in our favor. It was at this time the Khitan furnished technology that would have us conquer our mortality as only we knew it. destroyed in mass kills, and the kind of proscribed flesh we created for the Sedan we now bore. By some mysticism did a vestige of our mental being remain, but the Sedan profited from this transmogrification through consumption and waxing strength. All of our skin dappled black did the great night wolves fleece with the watchful crusher, and the many Akmans in the swimming limestone river to part us of the great gas deep only stood. No longer had we desperate scar hides of our primordial being, but clarity of mental processing and indomitable ultra-synthetic power. All stood, few were thinking from those days, and some most learned could deign to just vastly exceed the judgment and knowings of the lotus-petal peoples blossoming and rotting in the scale of detritus of our old inimical lesser. Many of my kin could now know the living unto even the length of days, but they would not know the color and season of feeling, and they were the ones now not knowing their own selves. The Necron Triarch now had our unqualified loyalty, but this would be at the suzerainty office of the Satan. Few among our people even had the strength to retain their own individual being, but they had comfort in the certitude of being even unto the far day. From updoing with the excesses of one golden tyrant to the vassalage of a plethora, we, the Necron, held the strength, and our particular venomous suzerains swelled to unmatched power. We were the deflective metal that awaited all the Iaret in any part of the galaxy. Now, those ones to whom we had become woefully indebted had the office of living, which rendered them by their hand towards interstellar consumption. We had no value for the species which the Iaret saw fit to exalt, and so we fed them to the insatiable maw of those ones with whom we are bound. There was one of that humor-charming number who they call Niadrazat, and he showed the people the way to pursue the Iaret within their own finely polished blasphemous realm. Yea, hath we, and yet the perfidious Iaret designed the realm to be resistant to our incursions. We conquered the younger species, yet the hunger of the Satan exceeded our supply, and so they began to quarrel amongst themselves. It is favorable that they are as stupid as they are treacherous, despite their technological, quasi-divine gravity spiral disc-spanning power, as the relieved us of the effort in exterminating most. Those Iaret with whom we contended used every method to stop us, including the creation of some viridian mockery of our being, which had their peculiar penchant towards nonsensical make-believe powers that still came to be. That awful group was so thoroughly steeped in the bile of the Iaret's Karam that they could make solid whatever they wish. And there was a people of soft skin who failed to walk without slithering in bastard imitation of those Iaret. And still those skilled folk gave us a strange creature kind enough to lend its singular creative intelligence towards building us Iaret technology. Our men of the priest worlds studied these lumbering kind folk, and an untypical Necron burst of emotion bellowed as a chuckle when we learned these Yakaru were helpful to us as they were the Iaret. The graven Iaret, relying on species uplifted, those worthless, disgusting parasites to which we allied feared another tide turning into war. Catan bade we build empires and other such structures over the breadth of the galaxy to confound Iaret witchcraft. It was unknown to our people, the development on the front of those Iaret. If they saw us as a just people like them, we may have been partners across the acumen of the spiral disk. We could have had our everlasting life offices while still in our real bodies, and they could have had a great ally. A la sus, as those supercilious red light-wielding people of that terror would say. They would not suffer us. This car round the Iaret hoarded stirred with the tempestuous waters of season and color. So we have learned from records of our inveterate foe, the state of this unknowable place was tranquil, but we in the Iaret churned its butter into a maelstrom of malice. We were the ones who pierced the barriers carefully written in the ether by the Iaret. Their precious tunnels of psychic make-believe travel now strewn with the infiltrations of this car realm they softly treaded. The fledgling mind powers of the new peoples they brought the sentience now overwhelmed the realm of the car to which we were denied. This realm contains some entities awful by our experience, beings who would take control of potent minds and use them as doorways with which to invite many more of their kind. Those Iaret could not suffer the carnal monstrosities they brought forth. We do not know if the Iaret still stand in a place unknown. Doubtless war would ensue among our people and theirs once anew. Were we necessarily destined to fight these upright serpent folk? Who is the one who should say? I cannot say, for they are the ones who may taste blame to deny a determined just people such a ubiquitous technology among them. Perhaps they feared Necron ascendance as an inevitable cenotaph for their race. It is even so that the Necrontyr may have triumphed with our wise folk to stand indifferent to the Iaret. As it happened, resistance has been a distasteful result for their species, excepting some car realm they inhabit or some fleeting paradise in the intergalactic clusters. Many ages past, we now struggle to assert our right towards the galaxy, but the forward fleets have regarded a peculiar, absolutely disgusting, organic being great from beyond our spiral disk. This creature aims to consume all organic matter, which leaves little opportunity for us to have redemption in alien bodies. We absolutely hate this being. For if there should be one master of the universe, it should be the real people who haven't suffered the impassive luxuries of a star and then a spiral disk in kind, not a worthless mass being who comes from every cluster to consume all matter. What does this being expect to the office of the length of days? Should it triumph in its genetic protocol and leave no spiral disk with life? It is a self-contradictory parasitic consumer, perhaps imbued by some vis ignotus to the cause of ecumenical, so sooth those Terran two-legged. We are the ones who shattered the Star Eaters at the nadir of their power, more terrible than our own golden tyrant father to the state of their helplessness, and intricate their corpses to the four corners of the spiral disk, not unto the lost memory days of we to take libations of the infinity halls and the wailing honors of an inhumed triarch that we savored the surmounting. We saw fit to repose, let the horrors of the God realm make work of the remaining Iaret accomplices, and cautiously wait out our taking of spiral disk, for it is any wise ruler knows the may hold, being lost with disaster and annihilation. Our Lord rent asunder protocols that bound us and then retreated into the space beyond the spiral disk to ponder and develop redress for the calamitous, if temporarily beneficial decision he made. Our number made slumber for 60 million of those two-footed apes' years, long before they would even learn hygiene from stretched Terran pulp. We did not awaken to a spiral disk in which we awaited the result of organic works. In fact, a new, ambitious, unpredicted, ruthless species within and one without emerged. It is just by the choice of the Death Lord that we should emerge from our great sleep. Those beloved acolytes to the Iaret, who speak of themselves to be Eldari, enthusiastically destroyed our dome world. Other species render in pieces our world and technology. Still, the fate of worlds and stars without respect to intelligence and life wrought the annihilation of many Necrons. With our reasoned expectation, these ones we find to call themselves human do not knowingly volunteer to open our stasis chambers. Our intelligence has gathered that they have these ones called the mechanicum, who study spark-sage constructs. They deem us horrible heretic entities and consign us to death and autopsy. These priests would save the effort of traveling among the golden tyrants to merely rip their own chest open for an example of biomechanical life. A la Zeus. They desire the dead skin we have. Well, it will only bring them to the aligned being and same funeral it brought our own people. We continue on, but in all times, in all governments, and in all places, the one constant perdures. The elite retain the best, the subordinate chivalric rods enjoy some of the patent, and the remainder of our people may enjoy that which remains. And so the very highest of the Necrontyr at that time enjoyed the luxury of nearly full personality and self-awareness. This ensonce for our people the ones who would enjoy power, the number of great soldiers who could think for themselves and rise to the task. The ordinary people could live and dream towards the atavistic greatness our fathers once wanted, and do little more about it. We regenerate and arise to find our new destiny, the fleeting hope coming in new deterministic conquest across the spiral disk. You foreign folk to us will recognize massive electrical and magnetic fields arising when we spring to life. We retake the worlds that we once ruled to the human office. We help your species arise to sapient life. Although there are anomalies in my grammatical pattern, you can observe how I nonetheless grasp philological truths of this hand of ours in the very old grammatic and amatkir your people once spoke. Some of our people may even choose to work diplomatic policies towards other worlds, or internally build our polities to merit being among the spiral disk islands. We are a people of since divided stripes. We do not act by the same code, so some approach openly, while others attack from silence. Our goal is dominion of the spiral disk, and we want organic bodies to return to living being with, and yet divine the methods of eternal life the Iaret achieved. We desire the presence they enjoyed in the Ka realm, while being an indomitable force and wordless trust this place makes. Our singular Lord Triarch is gone, so we shall approach our reclamation by independence, but it must be by cooperation. so, lest we fall into the same mental traps of the ancestor dust spelunkers. They acted unto our people as to flap their wings about to soar in the breath of the dunes. Some assured territories conquer, others reclaim cultural memories of we the once Necrontyr, and others may assemble organics for harvesting of their bodies. Since the intergalactic sabbatical of our Lord Sarek, our new kingdoms have many different motives and at least the same number of ways to fulfill them. Human seem to be a current relevance in the domain of the spiral disk, so we say this to you. You entered this red world you have named for an old idea man, Mark. On this red island stands one of our ancient foes. We would spare your organic lives from destruction, even your precious Terra and its golden one from consumption. We share for different reasons a contempt towards the realm forces that have since shown their true, murderous, treacherous, infectious, Hellenistic Iaret colors and would like to negate the realm's influence within the spiral disk. We know the evils of this realm and its fickle dread blood emotions. We have gifted you with the possibility to have people immune to minor rending that the Iaret foisted upon us. Oftentimes we find the kindly torch-bearers to the Iaret, those Eldari guarding our doom worlds. Our fortune was that we could sleep forever and awaken nearly the same, while the Eldari were subject to the perils of living and being a large target to other betrayers within the spiral disk. These ones from a sphere called the Liatok attempt to assail the awakening mass of the Necron, to no effect as we were paired with more alacrity than their filigree muskets can puncture. Somanor was a place where parkour Sybarites boasted to ruin the lord of the angry sky, Imhotep. What little did we know was of the metal serpents and sardonic refrain to our lost gods, like the mocking mind-trick visage of the Iaret, who may have been the Sobek despots in the skull sack of sins lost, just the portioners of the sands. What little did the Eldar know is that still lapidary grimaces belied our teeming cohorts. To extirpate us in our own domain, they were treaded upon by the peril of our own making. Spirit strength walls and myriad Kefres first made suffer, and the unfleshed of our people serrated the elven plight in their main course. In time, our King Zarek returns and confronts the investing benefices that seek to consume the galaxy of all the bodies upon which we could feast. We look towards a casual, double victory without effort as the Lord Ad-Grumpa of the Iaret's uplifted pets invades our human world with rigged big guns we created, only to destroy the entire world. A contingent of our people invade the world of an infantile race who call themselves a Tao, called Gadovar. We promptly defeat them, but some humans led by Khosrow Khan arrive to punish a Tao. Varkar Oberon kills Mos heavy men in Eldar. Oberon deals the human, and his resilience outpaces a human strength. Khosrow is allowed to lead by his ultimate captor, Zahandrek. Did the duel happen since the time of the swimming Kopesh, who drips his drooling plasma tongue? Was it your primate Sekula from Comet to Denset in these moments past? Flickering dancing light in the long hairs of the Hulubu Rutala under the limelight leer of the Necron, our sights set with our pounding heartbeat to the great act. What trivial nations, brother of the Asurian warlock, we do not deign to apprehend. We have persuaded a high world of the humans Arian to become our vassal in servitude. Arian is a watchword to the mercies you may prefer to certain boom at the first scarlet blossoms of the hovering red tyrant. Look upon our works today, mighty, and despair. Towards the source of the river of the rolling wound glow, we encircle your embryonic thrust, and towards the mouth of whimpering death flutes in elegy to your one pharaoh. The power of the Ghast deep might pour again in the bodies of new measured druids, but where your young peoples clamor with race at your throat for an ace of the same kind, we Necron will always be, from our first baptism in cauterizing heat and to the far dusk. Lo, slam your mantle over us that are swimming skins and see it clove in twain. If you so choose, your pharaoh shall have his webway tunnels in the unbroken cavity. One gas clatters souls in the depth of your martial lines. Batter the necrodermis and it redoubles. Strike even the necrodermis exposed, and we simply leave the battlefield. Our learnings from those lost ages sediment us far above the other peoples, that we may outlast their more diminished frail lives. Let the flayed be a portent of the great feast of flesh, and libations of spirit that will come. May we temper the gar without and raise the bar within into the black, towering wall plazas, and the yoke of incorporeal passions we reign.